What is up? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Mac. This is Marshfoot, the Marshfoot channel. So, um, really cool knife. I think it's a cool knife to show you guys today. Um, Before we get started, make sure you're always checking down below in the comments section or in the information section of the video. There you're going to find links for discounts on various items, knives, whatever I put in the description link below. And you'll find also the link for my Instagram channel, which is where basically I post mostly all of my outdoor content, fishing, hunting, camping. So if you're interested in seeing that kind of stuff, from my perspective, uh, then go follow me over at Instagram, which is also down below. So, all right, this knife. So I was at Walmart probably about a month or so ago, and I don't go to Walmart very often, maybe a few times a year. And it's usually when I'm bored and I'm just like, let's go to the old wonderful wild world of Walmart. And I did. And I got to tell you, I was actually pretty impressed by the lineup of knives that they had available, by the display that they had, the different types of knives from, pocket folding knives to full tang knives. They had, I was like, damn, this is Walmart. This is a far cry from what I remember the type of knives that Walmart used to have. And they progressively have gotten better over the years, but the last time I was there, it was pretty awesome. And a number of knives caught my eye that day, but this one caught my eye the most. And I was like, man, I got to get that thing. And look, this knife was only 40 bucks. And as of the making of this video today, March 25th, 2025, you can get this knife online through walmart.com, still for 40 bucks, or you might be able to go in person and get it. I don't know. But look, we're going to open this thing up and we're going to unbox this thing together and check it out. I think you're really going to like it. And I've been chomping at the bit to do this video because I've been wanting to use this knife camping and doing some overlanding and stuff. And I've just been waiting in the wings on her. So as you can see, Swiss Tech STÄHLERN, I don't know, butchered that, I'm sure. Don't know how to say it exactly. But it says, where toughness meets agility. Inspired by legendary Swiss design and the proven ability of classic bushcraft blades, the STÄHLERN provides exceptional sharpness and durability in any situation. 4.5-inch titanium coated AUS 8 steel blade, which that's not bad steel. I've had a number of knives over the years in AUS 8, and it's not some crazy super steel. It's obviously a budget steel. But what I found about it is, it's actually pretty tough. It holds a good edge. And, like more affordable steels, you have to sharpen it more often, but it's also a little bit more forgiving to sharpen. So than some of your higher end steels that hold an edge longer, but they're perhaps a little bit more difficult to sharpen for a novice. And, a knife like this, I'm not afraid to run this thing through, one of those pull through sharpeners or something like that, if it's just going to be in a beater knife or something. So, these more affordable steel knives do actually do pretty well in those pull through sharpeners. 8.75 inches overall length, olive canvas micarta handle, full tang, premium hard sheath with magnesium fire starting rod, lanyard hole, and reflective fleck cord lanyard, which I don't like things that are reflective on my field equipment, so we'll probably get rid of that. Anyway, you see it comes in a kind of a premium box here. It's got some magnets on it, pops open, and then in the inside here, it tells you in greater depth and detail about the knife, magnesium rod and storage. STÄHLERN striking notch on the spine was made for this rod to throw sparks and start the fire. Okay, so saying it's got a custom little notch in there, just proprietary to their fires, to their fire rod. Premium hard sheath, rugged, dependable. This fiberglass reinforced nylon sheath keeps the knife secure and protected while featuring a swiveling belt clip for ultimate carrying versatility. Again, AUS 8 titanium coating, high quality Japanese steel, sharp and durable, but not over hard to allow for effective resharpening over time. Canvas micarta handle, thermo set resin combined with layers of canvas cloth provide a durable and textured grip that gets grippier when it's wet. So that's good. If you're using it for, camp chores and such in the rain or whatever, skinning, gutting animals, then you're going to have a little bit of better grippage there when it gets wet. Full tang construction, as we've already spoke about, and a lanyard hole. Now this thing has not even been opened yet, as I said, so we're going to do that together here. We're going to go ahead and pop this baby on out. All right, so there's the knife. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about this. Obviously, as we always do, we'll do our sharpness test. We'll do our ferro rod test. We'll do all the things. Here's the sheath. Here's the piece of string for the lanyard. And then you got the Swiss Tech brand story, inspired by Switzerland, a rich history of craftsmen that dates back to medieval times, blah, 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 blah. So if you're interested in today, Leg's legacy, that's a guy that started it, I guess, Larry K. Leg, brand are proudly carried on by Great Star USA. Okay, so I guess that's who makes this knife, actually, is Great Star. So, all right. I always talk about sheaths first because it's kind of the first thing that you really ultimately encounter with any knife is the sheath, right? I mean, they're typically, by a lot of people, probably a little bit, glossed over. Uh, to a lot of people, a sheath is a sheath, but to me, it's can make or break a lot of knives if you got to put more money into a sheath after you buy a knife. So right out of the gate, what I'm noticing with this sheath is, it's it's a typical budget kind of nylon Kydex. Of course, they're saying this is fiberglass reinforced, which is cool. You see, you've got some lanyard holes there that are actually reinforced with like a metal sleeve. So, that's good if you're going to be, you want to lash this thing somehow or you want to lash it to something. It seems like a pretty sturdy sheath overall. As you can see, you can turn this, which is really nice because you can, scout carry however you want to do it. If you kind of need to, if you're carrying it on your side, on your hip, and you need to cant it a little bit for when you're driving to get it out of your way, whatever. So I like that. We seem to have some good positive retention there with the belt clip. It doesn't seem like it's going to come loose very easily, which I like. Built-in ferro rod holder on the side. Now I love that. I love that positive click on that ferro rod holder. That really clicks in there. Now, what I notice is there's no type of lanyard hole on the ferro rod. It's not the end of the world because it really fits in nice and tightly and you get that good positive audible click for your ferro rod so you know it's in there. So I don't really think you're probably in a lot of danger of losing that ferro rod out of there. Now, over time of taking this in and out, if you were using it a lot to start fires, daily, is it going to continue to have that really positive retention? I have no idea. That's something that only time would tell. But what I would say is, I wouldn't make that my only and primary method of fire starting. I would make sure I had a backup because, there's no way to secure that beyond just the little ferro rod sleeve. But I tell you, that is some good positive retention. I mean, that's far better retention on a ferro rod than some higher end knives that I have that come with a ferro rod sleeve that you're kind of like, boy, I'm glad this thing has a lanyard hole because otherwise I'd probably lose that ferro rod. So, all right. So there's the sheath. Now let's see what kind of retention it offers for the actual knife itself, because that's what's most important. Hey, there you go. Very good positive click on that. And, your ferro rod kind of actually acts as a bit of a leverage point to get the knife out of the sheath, which I like that because it's very intuitive. It's right there where I'm going to go to grab it and I'm going to push that knife right out of the sheath. So again, you've got good positive click on that sheath. You can hear that. That's pretty good. I tell you, for a $40 knife, you got a decent little sheath there, and I don't think that you really, that I can see, would need to, have a custom Kydex sheath made for it or replace the sheath, at least not anytime soon. Do whatever the hell you want. It's your knife if you buy it. So I think the sheath for the price of the knife is more than adequate. Going to be just fine. And what I really like to see about the Sheath is it does have a water drain hole at the bottom, which is that's very important. It's very important. All right, now let's get to this. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video, the knife itself. The Swiss Tech STÄHLERN, or whatever the hell it's called. As you can see, don't know if the camera is focusing or not, but there it is. Now, I think this is a really cool knife. There's so much that I love about it. And I think what jumped out to me about this knife when I saw it in the case at Walmart was just the simplicity of it, the simple lines, but there's still like an elegance to it. And I can't, it's weird to say that about a knife from Walmart that it has elegance, but it does. To me, it does anyway. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But there's something about this knife that just has a kind of a rugged utilitarian aspect, a look to it that just to me is kind of in today's knife world. Sometimes they get a little bit crazy. People are trying to do all kinds of wild stuff and different designs and this, that, and the other. And sometimes simple like this with a little bit of a modern flair, canvas micarta scales and just kind of the lines on it, to me are it's like a classic modern touch. And it to me it's a blend of modern and old school. And I can, $40. I mean, it's crazy the quality of knife that you can get these days for under $50, especially under $100. I mean, obviously you can sky's the limit on what you can spend on a knife, right? I mean, you can spend thousands of dollars on a top of the line handmade whatever knife from whoever, and that's amazing, and that's a great thing. You've got your middle of the road production knives, that are a few $100s, like your Montana knife companies and things like that. Excellent knives, right? But then you get down into these like sub $100, sub $50 knives, and you're like, do I really need to spend even $300 on a knife? And I'll be the first to tell you, no, you don't. You don't. You definitely don't. So, all right, let's talk about more about this knife. Now, one thing that I always like to do is I like to see how it feels, like initial impression. How does it feel in my hand? You know, Man, it feels good. This thing feels really good in my hand. It's kind of got like, it's like almost like a Japanese puko or something. It's just a neat design. And you might look at this and you might say that doesn't look comfortable. But what I can tell, they did a great job of on the scales where it meets the tang, which by the way, they did a really great job with meeting all this up and not creating any little ledges or anything that's going to be a hot spot. But what I like that they did, if you can see it, is they put a nice bevel or an angle or whatever you want to call it here on this part of the scales where you're gripping it, right? So what you have is you do not have a hard 90-degree edge there. And you get that sometimes with knives, especially with like wood or micarta scales where they'll have a hard 90 and it's kind of sharp, like on your hand. And if you're doing a lot of work with it, it's going to eventually, if it's a knife that you don't use all the time, your hand's not going to be used to that, and you're definitely going to get some hot spots if you're doing a lot of work. And you know, this is just an initial review. Obviously, I've not used this knife yet, but what I can tell you from hundreds of knives and using them is I don't feel like that this is going to give me any like blisters or premature hot spots or really tear up my hand. Um, it feels really, really good. As I always say, I've got big hands, and it fills my hand very, very nicely as someone who has large hands. But at the same time, I could see this doing just fine for someone that has smaller hands because they did to me. I think they did a great job on the grip of the knife, on the handle, of making it feel like you've got something to hold on to, but at the same time, not a bunch of bulkiness there, right? There's no palm swell to speak of. You can see that the geometry of the grip is the same all the way up from the top down to the bottom. I like palm swells typically, but that's just not the design of this knife, and I'm not mad at it. Do I think that it could benefit from a palm swell? Maybe a little bit of a palm swell through here? Maybe. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I don't think that it needs it. So you can see, as I said, the scales, the fit and finish is really nice. And this is a good, thick, full tang blade. I mean, you're at least 3/16 of an inch thick there, right? I mean, you've got a good, what I really like about it is you've got that hollow grind. Drop point, love drop points. I think drop points are probably, to me, for the type of uh, things that I do with knives, and just my kind of all around opinion and expertise. I use that term very lightly, but I like drop points. I just think that they're the most useful. When you're cutting, you're getting that point down. If you're slicing things, you don't got a weird upswept point like on a skinner or something like that. So I prefer drop points myself. And you can see that you've got that nice drop point there, but it's nothing crazy. It's not super aggressive. It's just, very easy, simple lines on this knife. You've got some secondary beveling going up there at the top, which is going to kind of promote, this knife going in and coming back out easier depending on what you're doing. It's not going to get stuck in there like you know, um, I don't know, like some kind of wedge or something. That's probably not even the right term to say wedge, but anyway, doesn't really matter. So something else that I kind of liked about this was how they put that little red accent lanyard block, whatever the hell you want to call it, in there. Of course, obviously that's the lanyard hole, but I like that. I don't know why. I don't know why that little red flare caught my eye. I don't even like the color red really, uh, but I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a neat little accent that they did, and I like it. It might not be for everybody, but I like it. I love the color of the scales. I love that kind of ranger green, olive drab, but it's kind of got some grays and some maybe even a little mild black in there, kind of mixed in. I like that a lot. Now, something I talk about a lot on knives is jimping, because to me, it can make or break a knife. If jimping's like way too sharp, you're just not going to want to use that knife because it's going to. I don't care how calloused you get, you can't. Your skin is not tougher and harder than sharp, spiky, 90-degree metal. And I say, if you're not going to do jimping properly, just leave it out as a knife maker. Just you don't. I don't think it's necessary. Is it a nice little touch point? Yeah, because you kind of know where you're at on the knife or something like that. Do some people maybe like it more than others? Yeah, it's useful if you like it, but it's not. You don't have to have jimping. But this is the type of jimping that, if it's going to be on a knife, this is the type of jimping that I like. And I can tell you, when you're looking at knives, this is what you want to be on the lookout uh, for jimping. Shallow and smooth. What I mean by shallow is the depth of the space between each of the, you know, grooves for the jimping is not real deep. And I've noticed that the deeper they are, that's when they tend to feel sharper. And what they did here is they did a really nice job of keeping them shallow, yet you got that tactile feel of jimping, but it's not cutting me up. Even on the edge, like on the edge of the spine of the jimping, it doesn't feel sharp. So that was jimping done well. Another thing, the sharpening choil, not crazy overly aggressive there on the sharpening choil. Now, I would prefer probably the cutting edge of the blade to just run straight all the way through, because I'm just not a big fan of sharpening choils. However, that is they did well with this sharpening choil of not making it overly aggressive where your cordage and stuff is going to get caught up in there. And what I mean by that is, I always say all your cordage get caught in there. Well, if I'm going to cut really fast and my cordage gets, I'm in a hurry and it gets caught in that sharpening choil. Some sharpening choils are so aggressive that cordage gets caught down in there and it's not coming out. Now there we didn't have really a problem, and that's pretty thin cordage that didn't get caught in that sharpening choil. So that's okay. I'm not mad at that sharpening choil whatsoever. So this is a stout little knife, but it's not overly heavy, and I really, really like that. And I tell you, it feels very, very sharp right out of the box. The craftsmanship, the workmanship for just a production knife like this that they're probably just cranking them out. It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. I like this little tree symbol thing there in the inlay. I don't know. I like little touches like that sometimes on knives. But I think what I love the most about this knife is just its straight up simplicity. This could be really used well as a glass breaker in an emergency if you needed to. Right there, just pow, you could break a windshield or a window of a vehicle if you had to. So that's something to keep in mind about this knife. But I mean, come on, guys, $40, and this is a Walmart knife. I mean, that's pretty damn cool. That is pretty damn cool. All right, we're gonna do the ferro rod test on this knife first because I'll tell you why. I just want to. that's it. Go do the sharpness test last because I think it's going to be really sharp and kind of cut right through this paper, and I'm excited for that. But this is the ferro rod that it comes with, okay? And as always with brand new ferro rods, they've got a coating on them, and you just got to get that coating off before it starts to shower sparks. And we're going to use the little hole that they gave us. Whew, yep. Yeah. Okay. That showered sparks, absolutely no problem. I don't think that we need to test that again. So ferro rod test passed with flying colors, which I had no doubt that it would. All right, so here we've got our standard printer paper, the thin type, and I kind of got some thicker construction paper. So let's start with the regular printer paper. And as you can see, I'm going the length of the entire blade. Now let's just do right at the tip. Which is not easy because of the way it's swept. But obviously very sharp for a production knife right out of the box. I mean, you really can't ask for it to be much sharper than that, and it's going to do everything you need it to do at that level of sharpness. I can guarantee you that. Now the thicker stuff. This thicker stuff is definitely more challenging for a knife. I mean, you're essentially cutting through lightweight cardboard. That's what you're doing. So there you go. So that's my sharpness test for a knife right out of the box. To me, if your knife can glide through printer paper, construction paper pretty easily like that right out of the box, you're starting out ahead of the 8 ball big time with your new knife. You really don't need to do anything with it. You could honestly, if you're not real great at sharpening knives, you're probably going to do yourself a disservice trying to get it any sharper than this out of the box if you're not really, really good at sharpening knives. Like, I'm not the greatest at sharpening knives. I'm okay at it. I get it done, but I don't consider myself like an expert knife sharpener. I don't like calling myself an expert in anything. So, that's why I'm very big about my knives being nice and sharp right out of the box, because I don't want to be dicking around having to sharpen them up before I go and take them out in the field. So, all right, well, there you go, man. There's your Walmart of all places. Really cool bushcrafty survival utility knife, whatever the hell you want to call it. I love it. I really like this knife. So hey, you know what? If you're kind of looking for a unique knife that isn't going to break the bank and it's unordinary, out of the ordinary as far as looks go, uh, I think you'd be hard pressed to. Whoa, I think you'd be hard pressed to, you know, I'm not gonna say find anything better for the price, but pretty cool knife, man. 40 bucks from Walmart. What a blast. I like it a lot. So, all right, that's all I got on this one. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Who knows what we'll review next? Maybe it'll be some gear, maybe it'll be a knife. I have no idea. But I appreciate you being here. And thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support.